Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Real with Jordan Demi. In Los Angeles, it's Jordan Edwards. In New York, it's Demi Ramos. Today, we've got Kira Kosarin. What's going on, Kira?
Hello, hello. I didn't realize you guys are bi-coastal. Fun, fun, fun.
First of all, Kira, let's talk about this new EP. It's kind of your first, I feel like I know you've been releasing music since the Thundermans, but I feel like this is like your first real adult, meaty.
100%. Yeah, well, it's my first EP with the label, and it was the first piece of music I had put out in 2 years. So it feels really good to have some current stuff out in the world. Yeah.
Tell us about how this is put together. Have you been working with the same songwriter producers for a while, or how did it come together?
There were actually a lot of different people on this project, sort of half by a factor of just that I had just taken on this new team at Republic and had a new A&R team, and they were putting me in rooms with all these new people that I had never met before. So there's quite a few names on the project, which is fun. Several of which I'm still working with a bunch, but half of it was made in this studio that you're looking at right here. Half of it came out of ideas that I had written at home and came into sessions with, and then the other half was just stuff that we figured out on the spot. But the whole thing sort of has this through line of all of these really big things, new things happened back to back to back to back in this crazy year of my life that also happened to be during the pandemic. And it was just this very emotionally intense year. And I kind of wanted to take all of those exciting, good things and put them into a little time capsule of a record. Hence the something new.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't even say it's called Something New. You should have given the title out.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. It's spoiler alert. It's called Something New. And it sort of speaks to this year of it was my first roommate in the form of my first really serious relationship. And then my a whole new career, getting to finally do music full time and signing this record deal. And just so many shifts in priority and life and opinion and health and mental health and all of that happening during this crazy year. So that's what sort of birthed this little project, baby.
Yeah. Now you gravitate towards this. I don't think it's this music. The music you make is it's kind of R&B pop oriented. Yeah. It's very smooth. I think of when I listen to it, I was thinking of people it kind of has a Nora Jones kind of feel, but a little bit more, I don't know, less jazzy, I guess.
Yeah, it feels like you hit the nail on the head because I grew up listening to, my parents' taste in music. So on my mom's side, it was totally the Nora Jones style singers. And then all of the early 2000s singer-songwriters.
Right.
My mom had a playlist called Girls, and it was just Colby Kelly, Ingrid Michaelson, Sarah Bareilles, all the Natalie
Michelle Branch. Got to get some Michelle Branch.
Totally, yeah. All of the early 2000s hits. And then on my dad's side, it was a lot more folky, James Taylor, but also a lot of gospel and 70s stuff. And then as I grew up, I listened to nothing but R&B for several years. And I'm a big old sponge when it comes to music. I have a lot of influences and they all seep under my skin. So they all find their way out in various parts of my own music.
Right. Now it's been well documented that your parents were Broadway people. You grew up with music. You wanted to be a performer.
Yeah.
Did you play guitar? Did you play any instruments when you were young, or did music kind of evolve in terms of playing it, being able to play piano, that kind of thing? How did that evolve?
So I took piano lessons when I was really little, and then I wanted to join middle school band, and I don't even really remember how, but I ended up playing flute, which you can see behind me is my flute from middle school.
Yeah.
So I was a band kid. And then when I moved to LA and started auditioning, I would get a lot of auditions where the role was musical, and they would say, if you can sing, bring a guitar and play. And I didn't play guitar. I had a flute, which I couldn't sing with, and I played piano, but I could never find a piano at auditions. So I got my guitar when I was 10 or 11 and got super obsessed with it and learned how to play every Taylor Swift song ever released.
Yeah. That was the sweet spot. Cause you're 24 turning 25. So when you were 10, that was the Taylor Swift,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
concert I ever went to, I had a friend at school who was like, come to my birthday, come to a concert. And I had no idea what a concert was at that point. I thought it was just going to be like a little room where they were like playing the music and the artist. Like I didn't really have much frame of reference for what like a stadium show would look like. And it was Taylor Swift's, I think it was her Fearless tour at this like massive stadium. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Hold on. Demi, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. You've been silent. So I have to ask, are you like done with acting? Are you like taking a break? Or are you just like, no, I'm good?
I mean, you never know what the future holds. When I worked on a show from ages 14 to 20. Mm-hmm. And, from ages 10 to 14, I had this huge goal in mind of like, I wanted to be on a Nickelodeon or Disney show. Like I wanted to make kids laugh. I was a goofball and like I was kind of insecure as myself and always felt more confident when I was playing a character. And then we never expected the show to last as long as it did. They kept being like a few more months and then a few more months. And then all of a sudden I was 20. And that whole time that I was working on the show, I was writing music and not allowed to put anything out. So when the show ended, I really wanted to give myself a little bit of time to just focus on music. It's such a part of who I am and has been since I was really little. And then especially now that I, have signed with my dream label and like have the time to really focus on music, it's definitely where my energy and resources are going. But like, I still love making people laugh. I still love getting to dive into a character. So I'm not closed off to it in the future, but I'm definitely enjoying being in my little studio right now. Yeah.
It looks like a good place to create. And I love that you stuck with the flute. Yeah. I guess Lizzo made it cool again. So you can kind of,
It was in storage for a couple of years and then we got it out. And I've tried to bring it into sessions a couple times, but it hasn't quite made its way into any of my released songs yet. But
yeah, there's an artist named PM Beta who's playing School Night tonight in LA, and as we're recording this interview, and he played trumpet when he was a kid, and he plays like just like R&B hip hop kind of stuff, but he still does like trumpet solos in his music. So you can find a way to like do some flute stuff at some point.
It'll happen. When the pandemic first started, I got really into trying to like learn production and get big on the tech stuff myself. And there was one week where I just came in every day and was just making beats, and I put the flute on a bunch of them, which was fun. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe in a year we'll look back on this interview and be like, this is where it all started.
Yeah.
The flute is definitely one of those instruments that are just like, I mean, any wind instrument takes a certain level of skill. Wouldn't you say so about the flute?
I feel like they all have their own little quirks. I will say it gave me the embouchure to be able to like, if you give me like an empty bottle, I can be like, ooh.
You can do like a little band.
Yeah, it's a great party trick all these years later.
Yeah.
It was
going back to the show.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you about I mean, there are a lot of aspiring actors out there, and how was the audition process for a show like that was on such a big network like Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
And were you nervous? Were you confident about getting that role?
So I was auditioning I moved out here when I was 12 and I booked the role when I was 14. And during those 2 years, I was auditioning constantly to where I got to the final 2 actors for like 12 different roles. And every time it went together. So I had gotten I gotten really close enough times to know, okay, I'm on the right path somewhat. I'm doing something right. And the audition process itself was like most of the rest. So it was like an initial audition and then a callback, which back then was actually in the room, which I loved. I was an only child. And so any opportunity to like make adults laugh, I just was very happy with. But I would go into the room, have the audition, have the callback, and then I don't really remember how many callbacks there were. But then eventually there was something called a mix and match, which in this case was also combined with like the network audition. So they bring in all the big guns to watch you audition. And they had like 3 people for every role there. and they were mixing and matching us to see who looked good together. And a lot of the people at that mix and match have gone on to have very successful careers in and of their own right. Jenna Ortega was the second choice for the little sister Nora. And now she's like had 15 shows of her own. So yes, they mix and matched us, and then they sent a bunch of people home until there was just one of us left for each part. And they took a photo of us all together, and they were like, okay, thank you. And we left. And I was like,
Was that the cast, the official cast in the photo?
so it was, except for one person, weirdly. There was a little brother who was a different actor who they ended up deciding just didn't quite look enough like the rest of the family. So they ended up hiring Diego Velasquez, who was out of town. So we didn't even meet him until the first day on set. He like walked into the schoolroom and was like, hi. We're like, who are you? Hello. But yeah, so I left the audition with a good feeling because, you know, they had sent home the other two girls auditioning for my part. And I went to lunch with my family, with my dad. And it was like the place we always went after auditions as like a good luck charm. And my agent called and I got the part, and I started like just sobbing at the table. And this is like an LA Studio City restaurant, because from across the restaurant, like two waiters were like, did you just get a part?
I'm dead.
Yeah, I was like, that's like the most LA
moment
story
ever.
So LA. And I'm just like this little 14-year-old just like sobbing, and my dad's like filming,
And when the waiter was like a disgruntled 45-year-old actor who had been in Hollywood for 20 years, he's like, this punk girl gets this role. She's 14.
Yeah, no, he was very sweet, and we continued going there for another couple of years. But yeah, it's very cute. I don't actually know where that video is. I gotta find it, but it's very cute. My dad's like, "What's today?" And I'm like, "It's the day I booked the pilot." I'm just like absolutely bawling. So yeah, good times. 10 years ago next month.
I will say that, you know, you do look like your parents in the show. Like they did like get people.
Well, so I have to say, Rosa Blasi, who played my mom, was already cast. She was the first one cast. And when I went to the mix and match, I met her, and I was like, I look the most like her. This is gonna
you're like, I got this. I got this.
So I give Rosa Blasi credit and thanks for having been cast before me, because she probably helped my cause a little bit by looking like me.
We had Sky Katz on the show a while back, who was in a similar situation that you were in, coming from a children's show and then trying to become an adult. How difficult was it for people? Because you were already 20. You were a legal adult for half of the run of the show. It wasn't like you were 12 years old. How difficult was it to get people to look at you as an adult? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. Yeah. It was super difficult from a public eye perspective. And it was also super difficult from an adolescent development, mental health perspective. I think that I really felt the pressure when I first got off the show of trying to like prove to people who I was. And that sort of came out in the form of my first EP was called First EP was called Off Brand, which is why I have this up in my studio. And the reason I called it that is because when you're on a kids show, it's in your contract that everything you do, say, wear, post has to be on brand at all times. And so whenever I like booked a movie over hiatus and then wasn't allowed to do it, it was because it was off brand. Or like if I wanted to wear something to the Kids' Choice Awards that they said was like a little too short, it was like, oh, you can't wear that, it's off brand. So I put out this record that was really sort of like a little raunchy, a little like just trying so hard to be like, I'm an adult, look. And I feel like it backfired a little bit in my own mind, just because I then very quickly was like, oh no, I don't need to be this like edgelord sexual, like, look how cool I am, I'm a grown-up now being. I can just kind of be a person.
You don't need to be 2012 Miley Cyrus, basically.
Although I have nothing but respect for the way she handled that, because it totally worked for her career. That is kind of what I was trying to do, but didn't have the balls to fully
That's kind of what I was thinking as you were describing this. Yeah,
I had the idea in my mind of like the naked music video I was going to do. And then once I started getting sort of the response back from people, I was like, oh, I don't like how that feels. So I'll also say, that was sort of one of the ways that I tried to handle that transition. But a lot of it too, I think, is just time. Like I wanted it to happen right then and there. I wanted people to just erase everything that they had in their mind of this character and take me for who I was. And I just realized eventually that that's not a fair thing to ask of people. Like I'm very lucky that I got to make a character that kids felt like a friend too. Like I had that experience as a kid too. And I think I have more sort of respect and grace for that than I did maybe immediately after. I feel more grateful for it now and a little bit less trapped by it than I think I did then. I definitely felt trapped by it for a minute, but
yeah.
you know.
Do you feel
One thing
happy?
I wanted
Go ahead.
to-
Go ahead.
Feeding off of what you were talking about, one topic I actually wanted to ask you about was kind of what's like the real deal about working for such a big network like Disney or Nickelodeon that kind of, you know, takes actors when they're young, and then and then there's you know, I mean,
I know exactly what you're asking.
Even though you kind of answered it, but
half the rumors are true and half the rumors are hyperbole, is what I'll say.
Okay.
So the stories, the horror stories that you've heard of kids being sort of put in positions that they're not necessarily thrilled to be in or being exploited, whatever, those stories can be real and those stories do happen. And I know some people personally who have been put in some bad situations, but also it's a company like any other company. And so there are great people who advocate and stand up for the kids. And there are some people who are maybe a little bit more business minded. And, you know, it is a business at the end of the day. I think that's the thing that is really weird in like young Hollywood, is that you're dealing with kids who are, if not fragile, impressionable, and going through really rocky time, you know, in life of growing up. But it's all on this massively heightened scale where there's a lot of money involved from the higher ups. There's a lot of interests at stake. There is a lot of people watching. So yeah, it can be hard for kids to remember that they're a cog in a business wheel and not necessarily a person at all times. But, you know, it's child labor. It doesn't matter what kind of the work it is. When there are kids being put in an environment where they're financially responsible for a lot of people's well-being, things are going to get funky here and there.
Well, and before we started the show, I was asking you we were casually talking about how you like your internet version versus your real version, how cool you are on the internet versus, you know, and you mentioned like wanting to go sexier, but then kind of pulling back a little bit. Do you feel like you find it kind of hit a sweet spot in terms of your online persona?
Yeah, I do. And it's not just the sort of sex appeal thing, although that was definitely a layer of it when I was coming of age. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's like a sense of humor thing. I think it's an identity thing. Like, it's hard to represent all of you when you're talking to the void. So, you know, when you're in a conversation with someone, you find common ground, you sort of present the parts of yourself that make sense in that social environment. But like, I've always found it really difficult to try to represent a really accurate version of myself because I don't always know who I'm talking to when I'm just throwing things out into the universe. Also, like, I think it's impossible for anybody to fully represent themselves through social media. I feel like that's just a silly thing to even try to do. But yeah, I think I figured out a good balance. I think if you follow me on any one social media, you have a pretty accurate representation of one very small part of my personality. And if you follow me on all of them, you get a pretty good representation of a few parts of my personality. I don't think anybody who doesn't know me in real life really knows me, but like, I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think it's good to have a little bit of privacy and a few fun stories in my back pocket that I only get to pull out at parties, you know?
Yeah.
I just would have thought that like anyone working in entertainment right now is expected to have every single social media, like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And I'm just kind of like, don't you think it's a little psychotic?
When a song comes
are we
out,
supposed to be on our phones all day long?
Yeah, when a song comes out, it takes me 3 hours to make one post.
This is what I'm saying, though.
3 hours.
We should all talk out against this and be like, yo, guys, like chill on the social media. Like, go live your life. I feel like we should all start a fucking foundation that's like anti-social media.
Foundation, a non-profit organization.
I will say this is a dangerous thing to say, given how much of my life and career revolve around social media. But I very much encourage people to get the hell off social media, at least here and there. And I think that it's very, how do I say this? I think that I'm seeing a movement towards sort of acknowledging the detriment it can have to our mental health and being willing to step away for periods of time, which I think is new. Like, I'm seeing people on TikTok start to be like, what if we just all did 24 hours a week with no phone, or like one day a week, just to try to like start to reclaim our lives a little bit. But yeah, I mean, look, I said it at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, ooh, this feels like the final push that was needed to push us fully into cyberspace. And it kind of happened. And here we are now dealing with the repercussions.
Yeah, because we had all this time on our hands.
Right. Well, and because it was the only way to connect. And when it's the only way to connect, it's great. It's better than having nothing, but it's junk food connection. It's not real nutritious connection. It's quick dopamine, but it's not fulfilling. And yeah, I mean, the dopamine addiction is a whole thing in and of itself that I have to come to terms with recently, of how much of an effect it has on our brains and how important it is to try to like detox from that a little bit now and then, and just like fold laundry and go outside and just like let your brain be bored for 30 seconds, because it's so easy to always have new stuff coming into our brains these days that our brains are like desperate for that hyper overstimulation at every moment of every day now. Yeah. But also it's fun, helps us connect, helps us get inspired. There are good things to it too.
Yeah, for the most part. You mentioned earlier, you talked about getting you're on Republic Records now as opposed to being independent, having a major label support. First of all, congratulations on your Billboard. That must have been amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, Billboard cool. Out. That's always like a landmark when an artist. I feel like that's like having a bill. I moved you from New York, and Demi's still in New York, and the big thing in New York is to get yourself on like the Spotify or whatever, the little like video board in Times Square. So that's cool. What I was getting at was that going to Republic Records, having an infrastructure of a major label, having major label people, what was that transition like? How much freedom did you have in regards to producers you work with, songwriting, that kind of thing? Like, what was that experience like going independent to a major label?
Definitely a change of pace. I mean, it is great to have a team. I really was doing it just me, and like my dad was managing me. It was really an in-house operation. And so having a team of people has been great, and having people to sort of bounce things off of is nice, so that I'm not just in my own little studio talking to myself every moment of every day, trying to figure out the best plan and what songs to put out and all of that. Obviously you relinquish a little bit of control, but they've always been pretty supportive and pretty artist first. For the most part, they are happy to let me generate the ideas and then help me execute them, which is what I was looking for in a label in the first place, and something that they promised from the start and have pretty much lived up to. So it's been good. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't actually met everybody in person on my team yet, which is insane. I signed, we started discussing 2 years ago, and I officially signed a year ago, and I'm finally going to meet everybody in person next week for the first time in New York, because I'm allowed to go in. The office is open now post-COVID. So I'm very excited to get to finally meet everyone in real life and hug the people that I've been Zooming with twice a week for the past year. Yeah,
absolutely. So outside of the music thing, what kind of helped the transition to adulthood was your part in Light as a Feather, which was kind of a good transitional kind of role, and people see you as a little edgy or that kind of thing.
Totally. Yeah, Light as a Feather, and the role I did on Good Trouble too really helped. It was small, but I was naked, so
yeah. And there's like a sliding scale of like edginess.
It was a little part, but I got everyone not fully naked. Don't get excited, people, listeners. But I and I get everyone in the house high. I get the moms high by accident. And it was definitely fun to be able to be in an environment that was a little bit less conservative and a little bit less covered up than my Nickelodeon years. Light as a Feather was really fun. I had auditioned for the first season, actually. I had auditioned for a couple different parts that went to different people. And then when they came back around for season 2, I auditioned for another role in season 2. I think it was the role that ended up going to Caitlin Nacon. And then I auditioned for another role that went to Adrienne Ray, I think is her last name. I hope I'm pronouncing everyone's names right. But I didn't get either of them. And then they direct offered me the one that I got. So I guess they had seen me so frequently that they were like, we already know what she's like. Like, this one will work. So they direct offered me the role of Nadia, which was really cool, because that doesn't happen very often. And I had a blast, man. I went and watched season 1 to prepare for season 2, and in the process, like, became a genuine fan of the show. And so by the time I was actually on set for season 2, I was like, oh, it's the house that oh, cool. Oh yeah, that's how they do that special effect. Like, it was fun to get to sort of be an actor and a fan at the same time. So yeah, I had a blast on that show.
We've been looking at this amazing studio you have in your home and you have the guitars and the keyboard and the amps, got the Marshall stack going there.
Yeah, wait, it's a fridge.
Oh, it's a fridge. I thought it was an actual amp. Demi's like, I knew the whole time that it wasn't the real.
No, the real amps are in the closets on either side of the computer, but it does look cool. So do you record or play daily, or do you use that more just like a space to chill out? Like, how do you use that studio, like on a daily basis, weekly basis? Yeah, it's gone through a few different sort of eras, as it were. During the pandemic, I was writing at home at my apartment alone most of the time, just writing on guitar, sort of the way I did when I was a kid. And then I would come into the studio to record and like get demos down. So I've got my mic here, and I would just vocal produce myself, and we would record the demos here and then send them off if need be. I like to keep this as more of an administrative work space than a creative space. So I tend to go to my various producers' homes to do the writing and the sort of creative endeavoring. And then I'll come back here to record final vocals or to work on mix or to do any of the things that are like, all right, let's get to work and get this thing polished and finished. But it is also behind my parents' house, and there's a lovely pool right there. And when we have pool days with our friends who are all musicians, we inevitably end up drunk in here, either jamming.
That dead ass sounds like a Disney Channel situation where you're like swimming in the pool, like, hey guys, let's go in and jam. And you like have a perfectly polished pop song, like already ready to go, and everyone knows the words and everything. Like,
and somebody's playing an electric guitar that isn't plugged in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we don't even jam so much as we play each other new music here. I've got like a couple of friends who we show each other every single demo we ever make because we want to share them with each other. But it's also such a good way to figure out how you feel about something you've made by like showing it to someone you love and respect. You figure out very quickly how you feel about it.
It's funny you say that. Demi's a musician. Demi's in a band, and I know that Demi would never play like old demos for people. Like that would never happen.
I mean,
right?
Old demos. There's definitely like those few people. I think every artist has like those few people that they can trust with sending a demo to and then being brutally honest.
Yeah, your circle. You've got to have your circle because otherwise you're just, like I said, you're just screaming into the void.
I know. I feel like it's your parents, though. Sometimes you can't send them anything because they just love everything. They love everything you do. You can send them just like white noise, and they'll be like, "It's great."
Oh, my mom's super critical.
They're musicians, so they're a little harder on me than that. But
yeah,
not mine. But that's true. What was it like growing up with your parents? Were they? I mean, how supportive of your career in entertainment were they?
They were supportive in that they like believed in me and they trusted me and they respected me to make my own decisions as a person, but they were very wary of me and doing an entertainment career just because they had seen so many kids go through working on Broadway and getting into really situations and having really difficult adolescences. So they definitely like made me wait until I was 100% sure that this is what I wanted to pursue. They were not like, oh, she wants to be an actor? Let's ship her off to LA, like get her on TV. It was very much like, okay, you really want to do this? Let's get you in classes every day. Let's get you in acting classes. Let's get you in improv classes, more dance classes, singing classes, guitar lessons. Like, if you want to do this career, let's put you in the training first and make sure that you love the training and are willing to like work hard at it. And then after a minute, they were okay with it. So like the first like year and a half of my training for everything was back in Florida doing like Skype acting classes and, singing lessons at my school and stuff like that. And then we came out to LA to do like a summer camp acting workshop. And during that week, I happened to like meet my agents and get signed and meet my manager. And I had an audition and got to the final callbacks. And we were like, okay, cool. Like We had a trial.
You put the whole package together.
Yeah, like this looks like it might potentially be worth uprooting our entire lives in the pursuit of a dream that happens, 1 in a million. But they were very supportive, and luckily they were not, stage parents living vicariously through me, because they had already had their own careers in a slightly different space. They had already done their thing, so they weren't, at the very
wasn't
beginning,
a dance mom situation.
No. At the very beginning, I went on a couple of auditions, and I came home, and my mom was like, "Tell me everything. Did you do the third scene? How did you do the second line? What did they say? Did they like?" And then she stopped herself, and she was like, "I do not want to be this mother. I am going to step away, and you can tell me whatever you want, or nothing at all, and I will just be here." And I was like, "Thank you very much."
Did you experience a lot of that, like with other child actors? Were their parents like extra AF?
Yeah, the thing that I saw the most frequently, which is really, really sad, is I saw a lot of kids where they would come out for pilot season, which doesn't really exist anymore with new media, but there were a few years at the beginning of my time in LA where there was a set few months where actors would come out, try to book shows, and then if it didn't work, they would head home. A lot of those families would have to split up because there were other kids involved. So one parent would come out here with the kid, and it would be a really hard time, and it would be a financial strain and an emotional burden, and the family would end up splitting up. And a lot of times what I would see happen is, I would have a new friend at school, and we would hang out, and all of a sudden their mom and dad are getting divorced and they're moving back to Idaho or whatever it was, which was always really hard to see. It's a hard thing to make happen. It requires an insane investment of time and energy before you see anything, and there's no guarantee of what's going to happen. So yeah, I got lucky that I had a very unique kind of strange situation where my mom had retired and my dad had this crazy accident and was disabled and couldn't work anymore. And so we had nothing keeping us in Florida. That's not where we're from. We sort of were able to move at that point because we weren't super tethered, and I'm an only child. And so my family was able to come out here together, which is one of the things in my life that I'm most grateful for. And the fact that they're still here and, down the road is very unusual. And it is not lost on me how lucky I am to have that situation.
I'm an only child too, so I can totally relate. And my mom is very much into everything. My dad is too. My mom watches this. My mom is watching this right now. And,
Really?
And what bothers her is when Demi and I, when our heads are different sizes, like if I'm sitting back too far or Demi's too close, she likes when our heads are the same approximate size. And I feel like they are right now. So Mom, I hope you really appreciate our heads being the same size right now. And see, getting into it, and her head is also roughly the same size as ours right now. So
unfortunately, I have this giant monitor because it's where we produce. And so the camera's at the top of this very large computer. So I look little tiny, but that's why I keep hopping up on my chair so I can at least be the same height as you.
Did you get to do any kind of, because you got Thundermans, you were 14, so did you have somewhat of a regular childhood before you got into TV?
So yes and no. I skipped a few grades. So I started high school when I was 12. So luckily I had already had 2 solid years of high school in the actual building before I booked the show and had to do the next 2 years on set. So that was good. I remember when I was young saying things like, I'm so glad I wasn't a child actor. I didn't move out here until I was already in high school. And then the older I get, I'm like, oh my God, I was a child laborer. I was
oh my goodness.
I say that tongue in cheek. Obviously, I don't mean to compare it to actual child labor, which is horrifying. But I definitely thought that I was older and further ahead than I was. And now as a 24-year-old, I'm like, damn, I really grew up in a very unusual environment. But yeah, I did get to do the first 2 years of high school in person. And then the second 2 years of high school, I did on set. I did all my college applications and all of that stuff on set. And then didn't get to go because the show kept getting extended at the very last minute. And I kept deferring. And eventually I was 20.
And they're like, you're not coming. Just stop.
After 4 years of being a graduate from high school and working full time, I was like, I don't think I can go back yet. Give me a few years, which is weird because I grew up in a very academic oriented family. I went to a middle school where the first day of 6th grade, everyone said which Ivy League they wanted to go to. It was that kind of high pressure, competitive academic environment. Yeah, I was got into Stanford when I was.
Which one did you say?
Let's go. Well, I said Stanford because it was the like Ivy in California, and I knew I could stay in California, and I got in, and then I was like, do I want to go? And I deferred. And
That's
then
also a flex to be like, I got into Stanford and just didn't go.
thank you. I appreciate that. I beat myself up about it for a while, but it's yeah, I didn't actually do it, but I do get to say that I got in. So I try to remind myself of that when I feel like trash.
Oh, you've some shows coming up. And I'm curious, since your music career really like got going in the way it is, its path now, like during quarantine, have you done many live shows? What does your live show look like?
Yeah, so I got very lucky. I was able to, my dad's here. Hi, Dad. I was able to do a tour in September of 2019 where I went like around the world in 17 days headlining a Nickelodeon music festival, which I didn't get to do any music with the US Nickelodeon team, but the international team was very supportive. I just made friends and they hooked me up over the years. So I got to play in England, Germany, the Philippines. I got to stop in Abu Dhabi and do this whole little tour with them. So I've gotten to hit the road a couple times before, which is good. But the show these days, this show that I'm doing on tour with Stacey Ryan is I'm playing the EP. I'm playing guitar for about half the show. I've got tracks and a band, and I'm doing some of the new stuff too that I'm teasing on TikTok. That'll be really fun to do
What
live.
about the flute? Does the flute make an appearance?
It does not make an appearance, unfortunately.
What about the flute?
It does not make an appearance. But I tell some stories and I sing some songs and I talk to the crowd, and it's a good time.
You act out entire episodes of the Thundermans in the middle of the show.
Can you imagine?
Doing all the parts.
You know what's so funny? People come up to me sometimes and they'll be like, can you do the voice? Like, do the Phoebe voice. And I'm like, isn't it my voice? Like, I was like, that's weird. It's not like you got a French accent or something. Like, I'm like, I can call you through the phone and it'll sound more like it's on a television screen, maybe.
Yeah.
I definitely don't do that. But
we'll let you go here in a second. But before we do, we have one of these rapid fire question and answer games like all podcasts are supposed to have.
Yay.
Ours is called ours is called What's Your Deal? So first question.
Like, what's your deal?
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Love Island.
Love Island.
Okay.
And these are all questions that have nothing to do with your career. That's kind of what the point of this is. These are like, okay, so
I'm so happy with that.
favorite fast food.
I don't really eat fast food, which I know sounds
vegetarian or vegan. I forgot to ask.
Snobby and stupid. I was vegan, and then I was vegetarian, and then I started dating someone who cooks, and it all went out the window.
Oh man,
because we're both foodies, and I was like, life is more, guys, just priorities.
Yeah.
I don't really eat fast food, but I'm trying to think of my favorite like junk food approximation.
Sweet or salty? How about that? Sweet or salty?
Oh, I mean, it's not considered fast food necessarily, but like my favorite bar serves this fish and chips. That's like the best thing I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, like bar food. Yeah.
Yeah, bar food. And also like I die for a sweet potato fry.
See, let's talk about my mom. My mom, like, I hate sweet potatoes and my mom loves them and it drives her crazy. Okay. Anyway.
We were so close to be friends and now we can't be friends anymore. What a shame.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What would you be doing if you weren't in the entertainment industry?
Yoga teacher.
A teacher?
Yoga teacher.
Wow.
Oh, yoga teacher. Are you a daily yoga person?
I am very much a daily yoga person.
6 a.m. sunrise?
I have hardly. But yeah, I've had a consistent like practice, just like a vinyasa flow practice since I was like 10. And then I've gotten really into like yoga sculpt, the slightly gentrified, but very fun, loud music and weights and cardio yoga that is very popular in LA. And it's sort of the one hobby that I have left that I haven't monetized. It's just for me that I get a lot of joy out of. And it was right before the pandemic started. I was about to do my teacher training. And then the pandemic hit and the teacher training was like online. And I was like, I'm scared about the world. I don't want to practice yoga through a screen. Like, I'm just going to wait. But it is still on my list of things of like, whenever I end up with a bout of free time that is just for me, that's something that gives me a lot of joy. And so I would be a yoga teacher. Specifically, I would do like travel yoga retreats and just travel around the world and like teach yoga in places.
Nice. When you go to a show, do you like to be VIP in the suite, nice, air conditioned, or do you like being in the crowd, like with all the people?
I want to be in the crowd, but I mean, a backstage pass doesn't hurt, especially if it's access to like nicer bathrooms, you know, and then porta potties at a festival.
Good answer. You like did the hybrid. You like did the, you know, a little bit of both.
Yeah, I always want to be. I mean, if there is standing room, I would prefer to be standing. I think sitting down during a concert sucks. I went to a concert once with a group of friends who had like bought the tickets, and we were like way in the back of the Hollywood Bowl, and everyone was sitting because we were pretty far from the stage. And I was like, what are you doing? So I like stood up and was like dancing and jumping and singing. By the end of the concert, like half of our section had stood up with us and was enjoying the show. So yeah, always standing, always dancing. Also, I always try to be like the perfect audience member for the artist if possible, because I just know when I'm on stage, I feel so much more confident and happy when people are, you know, making eye contact or singing along. So I always try to like be giving them my full attention and like singing the words and like cheering them on, because I just know it makes me feel good when I'm on stage.
Liquor or beer?
Liquor.
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 I don't understand beer, you guys. I'm sorry.
You don't understand beer? Like the appeal of
Beer
it?
is disgusting.
It's not my thing.
It's not sweet, and it tastes like, what does it taste like? Beer.
Hops and
It tastes like grass. It tastes like dry grass.
Carbonated grass.
I will say I've had a couple of experiences where I was like, okay, I can maybe see the appeal here. I was visiting some family recently, and for like my uncle's birthday, and they put together a brewery tour where we got to do a tasting of like 30 or 40 different beers, and getting to like talk to someone who knew about the ins and outs and like learn about the flavor profiles and try them all. I was like, okay, I see how this could be fun. But like if you're offering me beer or almost anything else, I will pick the anything else.
And also I think home brewing is really dorky. When guys say they like home brew, I think it's super dorky.
Remember
like,
the kombucha fad, you guys?
I was just about to say, if you're home
We're
brewing,
really doing that.
I'm not mad about it. My dad was home brewing kombucha for a minute, which saved me.
Is it as good though?
Yeah, it was great. He was making June. It was made with honey in addition to the tea. It's made with green tea and honey instead of black tea like normal kombuchas, and it was freaking delicious.
Damn.
Sounds good. I think kombucha and beer brewing home, it's two totally different things. Different things.
Different processes.
Yeah.
But if you do brew kombucha enough, it does become alcoholic. Heads up.
Heads up. We found out the hard way.
Yeah, just in case you were gonna make some for your children, just be aware.
What do you listen to in the car?
So much. Depends on the kind of drive. Right now I'm prepping to go on tour, which means I'm mostly listening to things that I can sing to like build up endurance and build up my voice strength.
Using it as kind of like training, like kind of like practice.
Totally, because I do like a 45-minute vocal lesson every morning, which helps, but it's just so boring after a certain amount of time doing the same lessons over and over. So that's a really fun way to train. So right now I'm listening to Maisie Peters' most recent full album, You Signed Up for This, and then the soundtrack she did for the TV show Trying. Those are really good records for me to sing when I'm prepping for tour, because they live in like a really healthy part of my voice that I can really work on. But if I want to just like, if I'm on a long drive, I'll usually put on whatever like rap I listened to in high school, just so I can focus on like remembering all the words.
So you're not really a podcast person, like when you're in the.
I have a couple of podcasts, but I don't tend to do that in the car. That's more when I'm like cleaning the apartment or like going about my daily tasks.
I'm the opposite. I'm podcasts in the car, music at home.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I will say I definitely go through phases depending on how much music I'm making, where I just need quiet and I don't listen to anything. I get so into the silence every now and then. Even to the point where I'll like kick my boyfriend out and just be like, I need 0 decibels for the next 10 hours. And then once that's over, I'm like, and then I'm ready to listen to music and podcasts again.
Yeah.
She said 0 dBs. I'm good.
None. Bye. I love you. I'll see you in 10 hours.
Last one. We'll leave you after this. Hiking in LA, is it lame or fun and refreshing?
It's great, depending on when and where you go and who you're with, like anything else.
I feel like it's the most polarizing thing. Like there are people who are like, hiking is so da-da, and then people are like, I love it every morning, you know?
I mean, it's, yeah. it depends on what your definition of hiking is too. Like if you're from Colorado and you come to LA expecting a hike.
I mean the LA hiking. I mean like going into the canyon.
Yeah, it's a trail.
Like,
it's a trail walk and it's lovely.
A trail walk. There you go.
I have a lot of really fond memories from, getting up with my friends, like hungover after a party, and we don't want to like do a proper workout, but we want to move. And you just go on like a beautiful little hike. You get a little bit of a sweat on. You don't feel so terrible about yourself. You get a little bit of sunshine. You're all in it together. I also have a couple of hikes that I absolutely love to do at sunset because you can just get a beautiful view of the town. So that's always nice. There are some hikes that are better than others.
The trails are awesome, right? I have this one friend, one of my first hiking experiences in LA, Victoria, actually, Jordan. We have this, who's also an actor on Days of Our Lives. She has this thing where she'll like.
Yeah. Demi's being humble. Demi.
What?
Yeah.
We
Demi went to LaGuardia and like went to high school with a lot of people who are,
Oh my gosh, crazy. Yeah. No, Victoria and I used to hang out. I feel like she was dating someone who was friends with someone who I was friends with or something like that. Like, I don't know. There was this one group of friends where we were always at the parties together, but I don't actually remember why.
Yeah.
But she has this habit of we'll go on hikes and she just likes to go off the trail. So I think I'm going on this nice like
she would go off the trail
route and she just wants to go and she's like, no, but look, like you can also walk up here. Look, there's people that have been there before. There's some footsteps. I'm like, dude, we're gonna fall off the cliff.
How you end up on Dateline.
I do the same
happened
thing.
Before.
I do the same thing.
Lost. Yeah.
There's this beautiful hike in Burbank that you like hike up to this tree and then that's the top and there's like a treasure box and notes and like stone statues and stuff. Like if you go over the hill, you can go down and find like a little enclave where you get like a private view of the city and it's terrifying. It's like straight down. No. But I always bring people there. I like the challenge. Yeah.
You LA people.
I know.
Crazies.
Do you feel like an LA person at this point, even though you're a Jersey girl?
Yeah. I mean, I did basically elementary school in Jersey, middle school in Florida, and high school and my adulthood in LA. So I feel more connected to LA. Yeah. I feel like LA is the absolute worst and the best place in the world, entirely depending on who you are surrounded by.
That's super accurate.
I've paid my dues. I spent my time in LA to really figure out what parts of LA feel like bullshit and what parts of LA feel inspiring and fun and great. So now I feel very at home.
Yeah.
In LA.
There you go.
So yeah.
All right, guys, that'll be it. Thank you, Kira, for spending time with us, hanging out with us, talking about your music. We look forward to what comes after the EP, and I hope there's some kind of fall tour because I know you're doing a few summer shows, and we'll see what's going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got these tours, these shows with Stacey. I've got a show in Oceanside and a show in Jacksonville during the fall, and I'm teasing a bunch of the new music right now on my TikTok. So anyone who's listening, if you want like show information or new music or whatever, come find me. It's just my name like everywhere on the internet.
So you have Kira Kosarin on across the board on all your
Kosarin across the board, BB, except for Duolingo, in which case
Duolingo
doesn't count as like a social media.
No, but how weird is that though? At 24 years old, I was like, I'm gonna learn a language. Sign up for my little Duolingo, put in my username. They're like, this name is already taken, and I know for a fact I'm the only Kira Kosarin. So somebody's stealing my swag. They even had a picture of me as their profile. I was like, who's pretending? Who's acting on Duolingo? Anyway, I'll see you on the internet.
Weird. All right, Kira, we'll talk to you later. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, Kira.
There was Kira Kosarin. Her new EP is out, and she's doing shows across the country, East Coast, West Coast. What's going on, Demi? Demi and I usually talk before and after the show.
We had some technical difficulties.
I want to shout out Demi. You are one of the most loyal friends I have. Demi, this is what Demi did. I left some stuff in my old apartment in Brooklyn. Demi went and got it on a freaking city bike, rode into Bed-Stuy and got my stuff, and she's going to send it out here. So thank you so much, Demi, for being a good friend and doing that kind of thing for me.
Of course. What the hell? It was interesting. The new people that live in your old apartment are definitely interesting. They have like a snake now.
Yeah, there's a snake in there.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is, but it's a nice apartment, Jordan.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to It's Real with Jordan and Demi. Of course, you can always go on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio, listen to past episodes, and of course, watch us, the video version, on YouTube and Facebook. Until next time, we'll see you later.